Welcome back, Someday Readers, to the Someday Reading channel with your host, the Someday Reader. And as you know, our goal here is to build a better stack of books. And with that in mind, we have to accept that in our quest, we're going to run across, pardon me, Someday Kitty. Go on, Someday Kitty. We have to accept that we're going to run across some duds. And this video, we're going to discuss one of those duds. And I have to say, this was very disappointing. It's Dirty Harry, Duel for Cannons, the very first in a series of books about the character of Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry. And this was printed by Warner Brothers under the Men of Action books, excuse me. And you get the sense from this that it was in fact a script or an idea for a script for a potential Dirty Harry movie that they had laying around, and they figured we might as well publish it as a novel and make some money off of it and see if it's popular enough to make a movie. Well, this turned out to be very mediocre. It's not terrible, but it's not worth the time to read it. The story is not engaging enough. The story it opens with this was definitely a script that was turned into that was fleshed out into novel format. And it opens with the attempted assassination of Sheriff Boris Tucker from Texas, who is visiting a Wild West ghost town amusement park in California. And of course, he just so happens to be a good friend of Harry Callahan. And someone attempts to assassinate him with, of course, a large caliber handgun. And the sequence depicting this attempted assassination and the unintended victim it's pretty intense. I've got to say, it was a very intense sequence. What followed wasn't. It had a strong opening in the first couple of paragraphs, and then after that, it just sort of sunk down into mediocrity. And well, Sheriff Tucker chases his would-be assassin through this amusement park, and they have a kind of a running gunfight. And naturally, of course, the assassin has a suppressor or silencer, since we are talking about Hollywood here. And they end up in a fun house, and it's a kind of reminiscent of the Man in the Golden Gun type sequence. I'm sure on film it would have looked pretty cool, but of course, seeing as how Sheriff Tucker is one of Dirty Harry's friends, he ends up dead. I mean, that's pretty much going to be a given. And the local police are investigating. Harry shows up because he was supposed to have a dinner with Sheriff Tucker and his family that evening, and so he just happens to be in town and shows up, and he arrives at the crime scene, and of course he has a run-in with the local police because they're incompetent and don't know what they're doing, and they've declared Sheriff Tucker's death to be suicide. They say, well, he went crazy, he shot this mascot guy, and then proceeded to run amok through this Wild West ghost town, randomly firing his gun until he came to the fun house and shot this one kid who was in there, and then shot himself. And yeah, it's just, and then naturally, of course, you know, Dirty Harry's like, well, you know, my friend would never do something like that, blah blah blah, and he breaks into the crime scene and finds a bullet and takes it back to, you know, of course, his department, and, you know, you're a loose cannon, Callahan, blah, blah, blah. And he proves to his superior that bullet didn't come from Sheriff Tucker's gun, that came from a second gun, so there was a second gunman there. And not only that, but he found a button on the funhouse floor that leads him to a missing person, a young girl who was in the funhouse with her boyfriend, who was the person who Sheriff Tucker supposedly murdered, was kidnapped, and she's from San Francisco, you know, Dirty Harry's territory, which means that it's now Dirty Harry's case. And yeah, this really, I don't want to spend too much time on this, because this turned out to be very disappointing, and I do not recommend this book. There are others in this series, and I've got at least one more, and hopefully it improves as it goes on. But this one right here, yeah, Dirty Harry, Duel for Cannons, which, I mean, you can figure Dirty Harry with his Magnum, the assassin guy with his Magnum, kind of, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, you can see where this is going. This was, yeah, avoid this one at all cost. And where should this go in your stack? This really doesn't have a place in a stack. This is a furniture leveler. You've got a wonky table. This is, you know, here you go. That should be its purpose for existence, is for leveling furniture. Maybe you could shim a door with it, you know, if you got to install a door frame or a window. And this Men of Action books, there's a whole series involved in this, and I've got a couple more from this, which we're going to talk about in future videos, and hopefully the remainder of this series, hopefully it will improve. But if you run across this one, or if you're thinking about it, if you're a collector and you're like, well, it's #1, you know, I mean, if you're a Dirty Harry fan, if you sleep with a Magnum 44 underneath your pillow, and you got a life-size cutout of Dirty Harry in your bedroom, and you've got every Dirty Harry movie ever made on every video format, this might be for you. But if you're, yeah, just avoid this at all cost. And with that, I've been the Someday Reader, and as I said before, they can't all be winners. So with that, have a good day.